One of the biggest roadblocks is to ask why. Why does this always happen? Why do I always feel this way? They're great questions if you really want to solidify the thing that you're having the difficulty with. Because a why question is a rooting or an anchoring question. So what it does is when you ask why, you're really digging in and you're sending down roots and feelers into the ground to really lock on to what it is that you're experiencing. So the last thing you want to ask if you're having trouble with something is, why am I having trouble with this? What you would prefer to ask, I would guess, is, here's what first of all, you acknowledge what it is that you're experiencing. You say, all right, this is what I've got. And then you say, how can I change that to the outcome that I set for number 4? How can I change? How can I get where I want to go? How is a possibility question. It opens up the doors to whatever it is that you might want to use to get where you want to go. So rather than ask why, ask how. And you'll find you'll have a lot easier time transforming the things that you want to change. All right, number 6. Note the color of number 6. Incidentally, I'm sure you've noticed I wrote in all different colors up here. The pink seemed to be a theme. I like to do this because your unconscious mind will communicate with you in varied and interesting ways. If you're aware of those ways or not, it'll still do it. So what I did when I printed up or wrote this up was I just said, all right, I just want the most appropriate color for me and for my audience when I do this. And the colors are related to your energy centers or chakras of your body. We can talk all about the colors later. That would be a whole other discussion. But the color that came up for blaming was brown. And that's blaming of yourself or others or both. Because when you talk about blame, when you talk about blame, you're talking about judgment. And you're talking about basically saying, this is not my fault. This is a result of some external factor. This is something outside of me. And when you place judgment, in my experience, both in my personal education of myself as working with clients, is that if you're judging someone else, that is a reflection of what it is that you're doing to yourself, as well as what can be changed within yourself. So it's like a big mirror. If you're judging other people, chances are you're pretty hard on yourself. And most of us are our own worst critics. So I put that out there. If you can remove the judgment, it tends to release you. Blaming tends to lock you in the past. Generally speaking, if you're blaming somebody for something, it's something they did. Well, by the fact that I'm saying did, it's already behind us. It's already happened in the past. So if I'm blaming myself for, you can help me with this later, if I'm blaming myself for not feeling prepared to do this presentation tonight, for example, that's long since done. I'm in front of you now, and I can either stand up here and keep kicking myself and go, oh man, I should have said that, or I can just go with what comes and offer as much as I can to you now. Wayne Dyer, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Dr. Wayne Dyer, but I like to watch his stuff because the information he provides is just tremendous. And his quote on blaming is this. He said, all blame is a waste of time. No matter how much fault you find with another, and I'll put in parentheses, or with yourself, and regardless of how much you blame that person, it will not change you. The only thing blame does is to keep the focus off of you while you're looking for external reasons to explain your unhappiness or your frustration. What I recommend if you find that you're doing a lot of blaming is if you can find a way to forgive. Forgiveness is a huge, huge tool. And what forgiveness does is some people equate forgiveness with condoning. That's not the case at all. Forgiveness has nothing to do with condoning an action. What it does is it releases you as the person who is doing the blaming. It releases you from holding on to that negative kind of restricted energy and allows that energy to be freed up and used for something else, preferably of your choice. And it also gets you back up here. Instead of being in the past, it brings you back to the moment and allows you, again, to see more options, to open your perspective and be able to see more of the things that are available to you. Understanding, I think, is the next step after forgiveness, when you go from judgment to forgiveness, or blaming to forgiveness. When you forgive somebody, then, if you can, go a step further. Try and understand what that person is going through. Say to yourself, what has to be true for that person to have acted in that way? Try and understand their situation, because I'm sure you're all aware that things that we don't understand often strike fear within us. If you can learn to understand something and really get a hold of almost what it's like to be in that person's shoes, then you can go to the next step after that, which is compassion. You can relate to that situation. Again, it doesn't mean that you're going to do those same things or that you're going to condone that activity in any way, but it does mean that you can relate to it, and maybe that's the lesson for you, and maybe then you can offer something to them that will help them, so that we're all, again, in therapy together. And we're kind of the lead into number 7 is part of that understanding is we all have something to learn, and we all act the way we do because there is something that we will learn from it eventually, whether it's immediately or next week or in a couple of years, whatever it happens to be. We're here to learn things. We're here to experience this life. And if we can just let people learn what they need to learn, we can forgive and understand. Any Vikings fans, don't get mad. The color that came up for this was yellow, and it was hard to see, so I just accentuated with green. Is that when we forgive, we can take back our personal power, because number 7 is giving away our personal power. Letting those external forces, those external people, situations, whatever they might be, control our lives. And if this is something that we do, then instead of choosing our path and moving in a way that's essential to what our soul path really is, we allow ourselves to get pushed through life on somebody else's choices, on somebody else's path. And it makes it, in my opinion, more difficult, more uncomfortable. It limits our possibilities and our choices. The Edge Learning Institute founder, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but Bob Mowad writes, "The best day of your life is the one on which you decide your life is your own. No apologies, no excuses. No one to lean on, rely on, or blame. The gift is yours, it's an amazing journey, and you're responsible for the quality of it. This is the day your life really begins." This is talking about taking back your personal power. This is taking responsibility for your life and saying, I don't have to let those forces, those people, those circumstances control me. I can decide where I want to go. And if I take a minute and tap in and find out what is my true essential next step, it will present itself, and I can go that way and let those other forces do what they're going to do. But I'm going to make my choices for my life. Take back your responsibility. Release trapped energy. It's, again, with the blaming and giving away the personal power, they're almost one and the same. But it's that restricted pattern that's taken up a lot of your energy. When we're blaming or we're letting other people control us, we're giving a lot of energy to our resentment and our frustration and all of those different feelings that come with that feeling of being pushed through life. If you can give that up, that energy is still yours, you can still use it, but what could you put it towards now? Something really cool, probably, whatever you choose to do with it.
Could you repeat the quote one more time?
Sure.
The best day of your life is...
The best day of your life is the one on which you decide your life is your own. Do you want the whole thing?
No, just that part.
Okay, I can give you a copy of this too later if you want to get that down. I love this word. This is a way, if you take back your personal power, this is a way to regain the authorship of your life story.